Assalamualaikum and hi. My name is Nur Shahinda binti Zulkifli. My ID number is MDA 2307097.
Hi, my name is Fiana bin Baharum. My ID number is 2307049.
Hi, my name is Wanu Afrina binti Wande. My ID number is MDA 2307117.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nurul Izzah Zakira binti Zainuddin. My ID number is MDA 2307120.
Hi, my name is Nur Amni Inshira binti Janis. ID number MDA 2307111.
GST is broad-based consumption tax imposed on the sale of goods and services at every stage of supply chain, from production to final consumption. Businesses collect GST on behalf of the governments, and consumers ultimately bear the cost. It is designed to be more transparent and efficient by allowing tax credits along the supply chain.
SST is single stage tax system consisting of two parts: sales tax imposed on manufacturers and importers of certain goods, and service tax charged on specific services such as dining, hotels, and telecommunication. Unlike GST, SST is only applied once in the supply chain and does not offer input tax credits.
Next, I will talk about the process of implementation of GST and SST in Malaysia. First and foremost, previous system was superseded by GST on 1 April 2015. Then, there is multi-stage based on value added concept. GST was imposed at a 6% standard rate on most goods and services. Lastly, GST was aimed for an effective and transparent tax system, but unfortunately, it was criticized by the public. Next is SST. SST was reinstated on 1 September of 2018. In SST, there are two distinct taxes, which are service tax for 6% and sales tax for 5 or 10%. For SST, single-stage tax typically imposed at manufacturing or import level. This implementation was intended to lessen financial burden on customers or consumers.
Okay, let's move to the differences between the GST and SST system. Okay, for the first differences, for the GST is a multi-stage tax imposed at every stage of the supply chain from manufacturer to consumer. For the SST is single-stage tax which sales tax of manufacturing or import level and service tax at a point of service. Okay, for the second differences, for the GST, it applies a standard rate of 6% broadly to goods and services. For the SST, sales tax is 5%, 10% or specific rates depending on the products. For the service tax is fixed at 6% for certain services. Okay, for the next differences, for GST, it allows input tax credits, helping avoid tax on tax, which means cascading effect. For the SST, does not allow input tax credit, which can lead to embedded taxes in final prices. For the last differences, for the GST requires frequent filings, more complex reporting and audits. For the SST, it's simpler compliance with less frequent reporting and auditing.
The comparison between GST and SST highlights several key differences across four main aspects. In terms of revenue recognition, GST generates more consistent substantial income for the government, whereas SST brings in less government income. For tax coverage, GST is applied at every stage of product journey from manufacturing to final sales, while SST is only applied to specific goods and services and does not cover the full supply chain. Regarding compliance and enforcement, GST make it easier to ensure fair tax contribution and compliance, while SST is harder to enforce, evenly as it covers fewer sectors. Lastly, from the government's perspective, GST is recognized in official reports as a more effective system, whereas SST is harder to monitor and ensure full compliance.
The Goods and Services Tax (GST) and the Sale and Services Tax (SST) impact consumer price in different ways. GST is applied at every level of the supply chain, from the raw material to the final production, whereas SST is charged only at one stage in the supply chain. Under GST, businesses can claim back the tax paid on inputs, which helps reduce the overall tax burden. In contrast, businesses under the SST system cannot claim back tax paid on raw material or components, which may increase their cost. From a consumer perspective, GST allows the greater price transparency as consumer can see the exact tax charge, leading to more stable price. On the other hand, SST can result in final price that include hidden or abandoned tax, making the true cost less obvious to consumers.
Why the government continues to implement the SST system even though GST is more effective and efficient? The first reason is public perception. GST was introduced during a time of rising living costs, causing the public, especially lower income groups, to view it as a financial burden. Next, a balance between acceptance and efficiency. The government chose SST to balance public acceptance and ease to use. Even though GST is better at generating revenue and being transparent. Next is administrative simplicity. SE is easier for small and medium-sized enterprise (SME) to manage, as it requires less complex compliance compared to GST. Last, campaign promise fulfillment. Replacing GST with SST was a key of political promise made before the 2018 general election, which the new government fulfilled.